Alec Baldwin's first post after arrest shooting charge speaks volumes about his priorities. Trump complains about length of Diamond's funeral and 2020 election in narcissistic eulogy. Maddow blog, differences between Biden, Trump doc stories become more obvious. Donald Trump surprise U-turn after abuse accusation. Inside Beyoncé's performance at Atlantis Royal Hotel in Dubai, the stars, the sequins, the set list and the Blue Ivy duet.
This is breaking news.
I'm Erin Burnett in Washington.
Alec Baldwin's first post after arrest shooting charge speaks volumes about his priorities. Alec Baldwin is facing serious charges for his role in the Rust shooting, but that hasn't stopped the actor from being a family man. 1 year after the tragic Rust incident, in which the actor's prop gun fired a live round that injured director Joel Souza and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins, Baldwin has now been charged with involuntary manslaughter, along with armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. David Halls, the film's first assistant director who gave Baldwin the gun and declared it safe to use, accepted a plea deal on a charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon, according to the New York Times. After a thorough review of the evidence and the laws of the state of New Mexico, I have determined that there is sufficient evidence to file criminal charges against Alec Baldwin and other members of the Rust film crew, New Mexico 1st Judicial District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies said in a statement, via Rolling Stone. On my watch, no one is above the law, and everyone deserves justice. Special Prosecutor Andrea Reeb also underscored the fact that if only Baldwin, Gutierrez-Reed, and Halls had been diligent with their duties, no one would have been hurt. From the get-go, Baldwin has maintained his innocence, and now, days after the announcement of the charges, he has broken his silence through an Instagram post about his family. While Alec Baldwin hasn't yet publicly responded to the charges leveled against him, his lawyer, Luke Nickus, told People they intended to fight the charges and ultimately emerge victorious. In a statement, Nickus described the decision as a terrible miscarriage of justice and that the actor relied on the professionals with whom he worked, who assured him the gun did not have live rounds. Baldwin's priorities appear to be with his family. The actor took to Instagram to share a photo of his son, Leo, giving his mother, Ilaria Baldwin, a massage. The old "let me give you a back rub" ploy, he captioned the moment. Potato chips to follow. Fans and well-wishers were quick to offer their thoughts on the charges against the actor in the comments. "I'm not a fan if you. But you're not guilty and you shouldn't be charged," one fan wrote. "You will be cleared. Ask for a jury. No way 12 would agree you should be convicted," penned another. Baldwin's nonchalance on the issue shouldn't come as a surprise, as the actor previously expressed confidence in his innocence. Speaking with George Stephanopoulos in his first interview after the shooting, Baldwin displayed a veil of self-assurance, noting that his hands are indeed clean. "Someone put a live bullet in a gun. A live bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property," he said at the time, per ABC News. "Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me." Trump complains about length of Diamond's funeral and 2020 election in narcissistic eulogy. Former President Donald Trump on Saturday repeatedly went on bizarre tangents while delivering a eulogy for Lynette Diamond Hardaway. Hardaway, one half of the right-wing duo Diamond and Silk, passed away earlier this month. Hardaway and her sister, Rochelle "Silk" Richardson, were prominent Trump supporters who spoke at his rallies and met with him at the White House. Both sisters were also vocal anti-vaxxers who lost their show on the streaming service Fox Nation after spreading conspiracy theories. The cause of Hardaway's death is unclear, but Richardson on Saturday suggested that Americans are being poisoned in a plot to depopulate. "People are dropping dead around here, and nobody is talking about it. They are dropping dead suddenly and unexpectedly," she said, echoing an unfounded conspiracy theory that the COVID vaccine has been linked to a rise in sudden deaths. Related. Alex Jones pushes anti-vax conspiracy theory after Diamond of Diamond and Silk unexpectedly dies. Richardson in her remarks recalled how Trump treated her and Hardaway just like the other children, Eric, Don Jr., Tiffany. But Trump during his remarks said he just learned about Richardson despite hosting her at the White House and at his rallies. "The world has lost one of its brightest stars," Trump said. "But I see that we have another star who was equal to, but she stepped up and she is different. I'm serious, I thought I knew them both, I didn't. I knew Diamond, but I didn't know Silk at all. I just learned about Silk. You're fantastic, you're going to carry on beyond anybody's wildest imaginations. They told me, just give me a little time. I've got a lot of people waiting for me back in a place called Palm Beach, Florida," he said. "They said give me a little time. What do you think it'll take?" "About 15 to 20 minutes, in and out." I said, "Well, it could take longer." "This is a little longer than 15 minutes, right?" At another point in his speech, Trump went on a tangent to falsely claim that the 2020 election was stolen. "How do we stop the cheating? How do we stop it where you get more votes, but you still don't win?" he complained. "The answer is the Republicans have to get tougher, the top people have to get tougher, and you have to really swamp them." Maddow blog, differences between Biden, Trump doc stories become more obvious. Republican Representative Michael McCaul sat down yesterday with ABC News' Martha Raddatz, and the host asked the Texan about the latest classified materials discovered in President Joe Biden's Delaware home. McCaul, the House Foreign Affairs Committee chair and a former prosecutor, emphasized an erroneous point. "What's significant," the GOP congressman said, "as a former federal prosecutor, you have the search warrant now conducted by the FBI." But as McCaul really ought to have known, there was no search warrant. In fact, one of the more notable details about this story is that the FBI didn't need a search warrant, because the president, unlike his immediate predecessor, extended a voluntary invitation to Justice Department investigators, asking them to show up at his door and conduct a thorough review. NBC News reported over the weekend. To be sure, it's hardly good news for the incumbent Democrat that Justice Department investigators, over the course of an inspection that lasted 13 hours, uncovered another half-dozen items. Biden, or at least those who packed his belongings in years past, already stood accused of having been sloppy with classified materials several years ago, and now those accusations have been reinforced with the discovery of additional findings. But again, there was no need for a court-approved search warrant because the president, unlike a certain someone, chose to be fully cooperative with the process. The day after this came to public attention, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin appeared on NBC's Meet the Press and, for reasons I'm still struggling to understand, the conservative West Virginian told Chuck Todd, "It's just hard to believe that in the United States of America, we have a former president and a current president that are basically in the same situation." With each passing day, the fact that Biden and Donald Trump are not basically in the same situation becomes more obvious. As we've discussed, the Republican took hundreds of classified materials to his glorified country club. He ignored requests to return them. He failed to comply with a federal subpoena. He lied repeatedly. He returned some documents, but held on to others, all while refusing to cooperate in good faith. He even proposed a possible trade in which he'd consider giving the documents back, but only if officials gave him something else in return. According to a Justice Department court filing, there's even evidence that classified documents held at Mar-a-Lago were likely concealed and removed before the FBI search to retrieve them. After the FBI executed a court-approved warrant at Mar-a-Lago, Trump launched a months-long crusade against federal law enforcement, literally equating the Bureau with the Gestapo, and repeatedly raising the prospect of FBI agents planting incriminating evidence against him. And then there's Biden. He wasn't asked to return the germane documents because officials didn't know they were missing. He nevertheless voluntarily disclosed the mistake, voluntarily returned the materials, voluntarily cooperated with the Justice Department, and voluntarily welcomed investigators into his home without a warrant. No resistance. No name-calling. No lying. No negotiating. No obstruction. No incessant whining about witch hunts. Are they basically in the same situation? Sure, just so long as one overlooks literally every relevant detail. Whether the Democratic president's critics are prepared to acknowledge this fact or not, every step in the Biden story makes his predecessor look worse, not better. If Trump had handled his mess appropriately from the outset, which is to say, if he'd acted like Biden, there might have been a story on page A17 about the former president returning some materials he'd taken from the White House. Instead, the Republican is facing a criminal investigation that is in no way similar to the story surrounding his successor.